Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, shoot on over to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast to join the Fro Podcast family and get exclusive benefits, including shout-outs on our episodes, and for our biggest contributors at the $50 level, guest host a live episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast with me for one of our Saturday night live broadcast episodes. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. This episode we're going to be touching on the day's news and rumors and give our predictions on WWE's Extreme Rules pay-per-view. As we go through the show, feel free to call into our Fro Wrestling sound-off line at 267-642-1160 and shoot us your questions, your comments, your concerns, anything that you want us to look into for this Saturday night's live broadcast. Remember, every Saturday night, 9 p.m. live Eastern Standard Time, the Fro Podcast does our live stream so we can interact with our loyal fans. We'll try to get to as many of your thoughts and questions and comments as we can throughout that show. If you want to get started right now, we have live fan voting going on. The polls are closing tomorrow night for our voting on the best tag team of all time in our 256 tag team tournament. So pop on over to our page at frolifeplanning.com/Fro Podcast and click on the Vote Now tab. Let's get things started right away with a look at some of today's news, starting with John Cena. It has been made official. John Cena is slated to return to SmackDown for the 4th of July edition of SmackDown Live. Now, just my opinion, I think this is going to be a one-off appearance. The 4th of July episode is one that Vince typically targets to make it one of the biggest, highest-rated shows of the summer. There's an opportunity there for them to lay the groundwork for a potential SummerSlam program for John Cena should he perform well at that show, get the big pop in the numbers. I would anticipate that they would try to set something up. As of right now, John Cena is a clean slate. He has no beef with anybody. There's a multitude of people he could work with. I don't think he'll be working with Kevin Owens, who I think is destined to take on Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't obviously think he'll be in the world title picture. That, I believe, is going to be held off until January, where I think he will challenge Jinder Mahal at the Royal Rumble and win the WWE Championship. However, there are plenty of other talents on the roster that he could feud with. We could get a Dolph Ziggler feud with John Cena. We could get something where AJ Styles, because he plays that tween character, good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy, we could see that again in some sort of a contendership match to set up an AJ Styles championship opportunity, and a whole list of other things that could go down. Rusev will be back by then and things like that. So we'll have to keep our eye on what they do July 4th edition, but I think this will be where they start to lay the groundwork for John Cena going forward, heading into SummerSlam season, which is something that, they have not been really great at long-term booking lately. This is something they need to get their hands on as quick as possible, and John Cena being one of their main characters, they have to get him ready to go sooner than anyone. We're going to skip on over to Ring of Honor. They have their Best in the World pay-per-view coming up very soon, and they have announced their main event for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. Christopher Daniels will defend the championship against Cody Rhodes. This is a match that all of us probably saw coming, but what is interesting is, and Cody put this out on Twitter today, that it has been 30 years since his father last won the World Heavyweight Championship. A Rhodes member, one of the most legendary families in the history of the business, hasn't held a world title in 30 years. It's probably time for Cody to take that next step. The reality is Cody probably should have been on that path in WWE, and we wouldn't even be talking about him in places like New Japan, Ring of Honor, and Impact Wrestling. They didn't appreciate his talent. Hopefully Ring of Honor does. I don't want to end Christopher Daniels' run so soon, but I would have no problem with seeing Cody Rhodes win a world championship. It's something that I believe has been long overdue. Nia Jax is in the news today, talking on Twitter, complaining essentially about the Raw Women's Division. She highlighted in her tweet, she emphasized the importance of this Money in the Bank ladder match for the women on SmackDown, and emphasized how the women's division on SmackDown gets featured so prominently. All of their members of their women's division get featured so prominently. For those who haven't noticed, Nia Jax has been off TV since the beginning of May. They were doing this whole thing where they were flirting with the idea of her teaming with Alexa Bliss. That has not come to fruition, and now the word is that they don't know what to do with her. They're working so hard on this Alexa Bliss Bayley thing. They're working very hard on rebuilding Sasha Banks using the Alicia Fox angle. So where does Nia Jax fall? And I will tell you, the easy answer would be Give her somebody unstoppable to put her against. And that person is Asuka. Asuka has not been called to the main roster. They're really emphasizing that she broke Goldberg's streak, but the streak is not something important for that. NXT has enough of a following behind all of their stars. We need somebody to compete with Nia Jax on the main roster, and Asuka has paid her dues. It's time. Bring her up. In other news, gotta talk about Raw viewership, because in the last several weeks, Raw's viewership has just been tanking, and we're at historic lows for Raw. This week's episode drew in just over 2.6 million viewers. That may sound like a lot to people, but there were episodes on Spike TV of TNA Impact Wrestling only a few years ago that got relatively close to that. So if that tells you how far WWE has fallen, and now when you think about the fact that, Impact Wrestling is happy to get 300,000 people a week instead of a million, it's kind of scary to see where professional wrestling is right now as far as the television viewership. And a lot of this is attributed to the booking. WWE has not had intriguing booking for quite some time. Yes, they've had some engaging characters. You love the whole Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho thing. You love AJ Styles. You even like the stuff they do with people like Luke Harper and giving Bray Wyatt a world championship run. You get excited for those big pop return guys like Goldberg and Brock. But as far as the actual storylines, WWE has been lacking for an extended period of time. And now, the viewership is at an all-time low. I got into an argument on Facebook the other day with somebody about this. He kept saying how every time they report their earnings on their WWE conference calls, they talk about how their revenue is up higher than ever. Yeah, because they're the only show in town. So you sell a ton of merchandise. You are in other avenues, music, television, and the movies. You have other music products like, they have tons of downloads on iTunes. That's money every time somebody clicks the downloads. Have you seen the glorious download for Bobby Roode? Like, they are making money hand over fist, but it's not because of their wrestling. And here's the problem. In older days of WWE, they used to count on the drawing of fans into their house shows. House show attendance is at an all-time low. They used to bring people in for Raw and SmackDown. The ratings would pop and they would get huge advertising revenue. Those numbers are down, which means when they negotiate new contracts with other advertisers, they're going to command a lower amount of money because they're not performing as high as they used to. When USA's contract comes up for renewal, they'll stay on the network. They've been there for forever, except for that little period of time over on Spike. They're going to stay on USA, but they still have to deliver the high ratings, or it's going to lower the amount of money the USA network is willing to pay them. So, very concerning. Raw viewership needs to come up. And now I just got done saying how they haven't been booking long-term very well, but I think, this is just my opinion, that they have an opportunity to book something really interesting. And that is, as we spoke about on the Raw review episode, Big Cass potentially being the man attacking Enzo in the back on Raw, not the Revival. If that is what they are going to do, if that's how they're going to split the two up, and if they see money in Big Cass as a heel, I think after what we saw on Raw on Monday night, one of the coolest angles they could possibly pull is take Corey Graves and pull him out of the booth. Get him out of commentary. I know he's a great commentator. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking his commentating skills. But you right now have Nigel McGuinness, who could fill that void and free up Corey Graves to be the spokesman, the manager, the heel manager for Big Cass, and launch him as a main event player on Raw in the singles division. It also frees up Enzo to go to 205 Live and really pop that brand and help that brand gain some recognition. Let's face it, Big Cass has a lot more talent right now than Enzo does. Enzo is a crowd pleaser. He's a talker. He's kind of like Roddy Piper, but smaller. Okay? Put him in a situation where he can perform at his level and still be believable, and let Cass's character blossom and grow. That's what we need to see for some really creative booking. In the topic of booking, we have Money in the Bank coming up, the first ever women's ladder match, and Lana wants to be included in that match. She put a post out on Twitter talking about how she was appealing to Shane McMahon, asking to be added to the match because she wants to be a part of history too. I get it. Her character's been off TV for an extended period of time, and the reality is we have not seen her wrestle on mainstream television almost at all. Couple matches here and there, nothing too impressive, but also nothing too disappointing. I would not be surprised if somehow she does weasel her way into that match. My issue is there are 6 really prominent divas on the brand, including the women's champion. The women's champion doesn't have an opponent, while these 5 are fighting for a briefcase. There has to be someone for her to face. So, If I was them booking it, I would not add her to this match. I would have her come out and attack the champion and take a spot at the pay-per-view facing the champion right away. You don't need to go up a ladder to get a championship opportunity if we just give you the opportunity, and then we can protect the other 5 main stars on the women's division in SmackDown and let them have their ladder match while having a defense of the women's championship. That, or just put the women's title on the line in the ladder match instead of a shot at the title and have all 6 women go for it and forget about Lana. One or the other. In related booking news, Vince Russo has been reported by eWrestling News that Vince Russo was in touch with Vince McMahon about potentially making a return to the company to assist in booking storylines. There are some people who would love that idea, others who would hate it. Vince Russo has been known for some of the worst gimmicks, worst ideas in the history of the business. He pretty much single-handedly destroyed WCW during the Monday Night Wars. However, prior to going to WCW, when he had someone guiding him and pulling in the reins and keeping him in check, he actually did relatively well with WWE in the past. I know people like Jim Cornette are not huge fans of his. Anybody who saw the Table for Three, should be blaringly obvious. Eric Bischoff is another one who's not a fan. But you gotta remember that there was a time when he was actually an important piece of WWE's creative process. If you watch Beyond the Mat, that documentary that came out way back in the 90s, you could see him, going over match ideas with Sable in the back, and that was a part of the documentary. You could see what he did when he still had the reins on, and he did it pretty well. I'm not saying I want Vince Russo booking for Vince McMahon, and it sounds like Vince McMahon took the call, returned the call, and now sounds like he's not interested. But just the fact that they had back and forth conversation tells me it's not something we should shut the doors on in the future. Don't forget, if you're wanting to call and leave questions for us on our talk to text sound offline, the number is 267-642-1160, and send us your thoughts, your questions, your comments. We need all of your input for Saturday night's live broadcast. Again, don't forget to pop over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/ProWrestlingPodcast. And if you just want to stay up to date or revisit some of your favorite interviews that we've done, go to FroLifePlanning.com/FroPodcast and check out our page. Let's get to WWE's Extreme Rules 2017. Here are our predictions. We're going to start with the kickoff show where we're going to see Kalisto take on Apollo Crews. It's relatively worthless match time, but I expect that they have shown Apollo Crews hanging with Titus O'Neil so much, Titus really trying hard to reestablish Apollo Crews' career. I think this is the way you get a chance to flip Apollo Crews as a heel and have him fully align with Titus O'Neil, because like last week, when Titus O'Neil defeats Kalisto holding the tights, he was kind of ribbing him a bit about holding the tights, but he wasn't rejecting him either, high-fiving and all that kind of stuff. This is the opportunity to flip Crews to a heel, elevate his character just a little bit, and give him a little bit of spotlight. And I think that's what they're going to do. I call Apollo Crews the winner through some underhanded, shady business, but I think that's what's necessary to take him to the next level of this storyline. We also, in the kickoff show, have Goldust taking on R-Truth. I'm not trying to bury R-Truth here, but really, since he's been in WWE, he's had very little impact that meant anything. Whereas Goldust, especially for his age, has contributed in a lot of ways. If anybody remembers the Brotherhood, when he teamed with Stardust, their tag team was fantastic. He looked like the youngest Goldust we'd seen in a very long time. And now I think it's an opportunity for Goldust to reassert himself as a legitimate player in that mid to mid or upper level if he's able to defeat R-Truth. If I was WWE, kind of as a send-off for Goldust eventually, because you know he's not going to wrestle forever, I would book Goldust to beat R-Truth in this match, let R-Truth go off and do his music and be a promotional thing for WWE, but his career has got to be winding down as well. He's not a spring chicken anymore. The guy's getting up there in age. And Goldust, give him one last run. Give him a couple shots at the Intercontinental title. Maybe even give him the Intercontinental title at some point, just to be a gesture of thanks for everything he's done for the company in the last couple years. We get to the main card. We have Sasha Banks and Rich Swann taking on Noam Dar and Alicia Fox. This is a match that has really been hodgepodge put together in the last week or so, but I'm actually okay with it because Sasha Banks needed to be rebuilt, and this is an interesting way to use her. And you could almost feel the frenetic energy between she and Rich Swann this past Monday. When they were dancing in the ring and having a good time, they looked really good together. And it's something they could really push forward. And having her show up on 205 Live, it does nothing but bring some attention to that brand. They want to find a way to motivate that brand. That's one of the ways you do it, is bring one of your most popular women over to that brand, even if it's in a subordinate role to Rich Swann, who is being underutilized anyways. So my call here, I see Sasha Banks and Rich Swann taking the win here over Noam Dar and Alicia Fox. Neville takes on Austin Aries in a submission match. This is the only way I can break this down. This match and this feud has been going on for so long, it's obnoxious. It needs to end. So how do you end the feud? Well, with the bizarre booking that WWE's done lately, Neville's won pretty much every championship opportunity that he's come across, and when he's not going to win, he gets himself disqualified or counted out or something of that nature. It is time. It is time to transition the title to someone else. Give it to Austin Aries. If I'm booking this, I'm booking Austin Aries to win the match, last chancery for the victory, and that is exactly why Neville will win this match. So, despite the fact that I would book Aries to win, I'm calling this match for Neville, who is going to retain the Cruiserweight Championship and make it very obvious that the entire feud with Austin Aries was nonsense because they never had any intention of giving him the championship. I hope I'm wrong, because I think Austin Aries would be a great Cruiserweight champion, but I just don't see WWE giving him that opportunity. Maybe because they see him as a bigger star on the main roster than just a Cruiserweight, which would be even more heavenly and divine, but I don't see that happening either. Maybe they want to put him back in the booth to replace Corey Graves if he goes and becomes Cass's manager. Just putting that out there again. The Hardys will defend the Tag Team Championship in a steel cage match against Sheamus and Cesaro. The Hardys have won everything since they've been back, whether it's singles, tag teams, six-man tag teams. They've hit swantons, they've hit Twist of Fate, they've done everything that the classic Hardy Act always needed to do. There's been negotiations for the broken characters going on for months now. There's been speculation WWE doesn't want the characters, other times they do want the characters. My belief here is that Sheamus and Cesaro will recapture the Tag Team Championship in this cage match, because the cage, in essence, acts as an excuse for why you can have the Hardys lose but not lose any momentum. And then when you get the clearance to use those broken characters, you can really do it in a great way, in a whole lot easier when they're not the Tag Team Champions. Matt can go off and be Broken Matt, and Jeff Hardy can go take that singles run that Vince seems so hell-bent on, and he could, use that character, the Team Extreme version of Jeff Hardy, the charismatic enigma, and that could be what they catapult into the next stratosphere. And it's the best way for us to get to the Matt Hardy versus Bray Wyatt feud that I would like to see at SummerSlam. Just my prediction. In the Intercontinental Championship match, Dean Ambrose is going to defend against The Miz. There is no champion's advantage. If anybody can't see this booking coming a mile away, sometime in this match, The Miz is going to purposely have his wife slap the snot out of him so that Dean Ambrose gets disqualified and The Miz takes the Intercontinental Championship. So, and maybe that's not how it goes down, but in whatever way they do it, The Miz will walk out the Intercontinental Champion. This would be a great opportunity if they reveal the Enzo situation earlier in the night for Big Cass to come out and attack Miz, giving the championship to Miz, and then turn over and attack Dean Ambrose. It would solidify Cass immediately as a main event player if he goes into a feud right away with Dean Ambrose. In the Women's Championship match, Alexa Bliss, Bayley with the kendo stick on a pole. I don't like the match idea. I think it's a little bit scary what these girls could accidentally do to each other. They're not always the most crisp cut in the ring, but after what went down on Raw with that incredibly horrible segment, but the caning at the end, the physicality at the end, made it so I actually want to see this match. This match, I see Alexa Bliss walking out retaining the Women's Championship because it's too soon to keep bouncing that belt around. They've taken a lot of flack for what they did with Sasha Banks and Charlotte last year. I think they're going to keep the championship on Alexa Bliss in the short term. Long term, I think they really want to put it back on Sasha Banks, but they don't exactly know how to do that yet. This will be one of the ways that they can take some of that mystique and intrigue out of the feud and end this one and get things set up really well for Sasha going forward, or the reintroduction of Nia Jax. I would actually have no problem with Nia Jax being one of those unstoppable bad guys who really is a good guy facing the heel champion. I don't know how they would book it, but I'd be okay with it. Finally, the Extreme Rules Fatal 5-Way, the match to determine the number one contender for Great Balls of Fire to face Brock Lesnar. I have heard all the banter. I've heard all the debate online, whether it was WrestleZone.com, eWrestling News, Wrestling Inc., PWIOnline.com. You name the site, Cage Side Seats, the Bleacher Report. They all are reporting the same things. They're all saying that Finn Balor is the favorite to walk out the champion. The issue I have with that is a match that you could really promote over a longer period of time. We already know Braun Strowman is supposed to be the opponent for Brock at SummerSlam. That tells me this has to be a very short program. So that is not the time to put Finn Balor against Brock. It is also not the time to put Seth Rollins against Brock, because that's an opportunity for a long-term booking plan as well. You're not going to put Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar because that's your WrestleMania main event for next year. So what are your options? Samoa Joe? We would love to see that, but I don't think we're going to see Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar till next year's SummerSlam. What I think is going to happen, this is my prediction, I'm going against everybody else. I say Bray Wyatt walks out champion for two very specific reasons. One, Bray Wyatt needs to face Brock Lesnar in a short program because we need to free him up from Matt Hardy as soon as the broken character is clear. We don't have time to wait around on that character. So, I think they'll do it for that reason. And in addition, I think that when you look at the booking coming up in the short term at the house shows and the dark main events on Raw and SmackDown, one of them, and Raw, before the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view, sees Bray Wyatt challenge Brock Lesnar in a dark match. I think that's where you test out whatever you're going to do at the pay-per-view. Make sure these two have some chemistry, work out the kinks, and then put on a great match at the pay-per-view. So my prediction for the Fatal 5-Way is Bray Wyatt walks out the number one contender to the World Championship, or the Universal Championship, I should say, and he'll take on Brock Lesnar at Great Balls of Fire. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next time where we'll run down all the latest news and rumors. We'll review the card from Extreme Rules once the results are in. Special thanks as always to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects we used throughout today's show. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to www.thegamecrafter.com/games/sketchypeople to pick up your copy today. And AlleyRepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all of your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. Be sure to shoot over to our website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, whether it's college, university, or a career change. Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today, and if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.tsjsports.com, and you can check out the latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you Saturday night for the live broadcast episode where we'll take your questions, your comments, and we will review some of the cool matches coming up in round 4 of the tag team tournament that you guys have been doing such a great job with. There are some really close voting, people. Get your votes in. It's the last day, and we'll talk to you Saturday night. Take care.